All righty, Cindy. Well, like I said, thanks again for hopping on the call with me. So, first question for you is, can you take me back to a moment or maybe a big aha for you when you realized that you wanted to do something differently with your life or, thought I can't keep doing life the way that I've been doing it?
So I've been a nurse for almost 44 years now
Mhm.
and always had a lot of jobs. I was a single mom, three kids. They're all grown now, but it was pretty rough going through it. Divorce was hard. It left me in a lot of debt. And I always thought that I would work probably until I was, 66, 67, right? And then the last half of my career I was in public health infectious disease.
Mhm.
And so I was really knee deep in COVID, like neck deep in COVID.
Mhm.
And I thought I was doing okay. And then we got out of the pandemic and I'm like, I didn't even recognize it in myself. It was my kids who said, Mom, there's something going on. You got to figure out how to get out. I didn't want to, I worked from home most of the time. I could barely crawl out of the bed to get to the desk. I just didn't want to do it. My heart wasn't in it anymore.
Mhm.
So I started, talking to retirement and figuring out where I was at financially. And I could retire, but it would barely cover the bills, right? It wouldn't cover anything extra. So I knew I still needed to bring in money, but I wasn't willing to work for anybody else. I'm done. I'm done punching a time clock. I'm done physically going to a job. And I had dabbled in the online space before with multi-level marketing stuff. And I just always had a big ick factor with it and never really saw the success that I wanted. So when I was shown this blueprint by a good friend of mine who started and never really followed through on it. But the bottom line is, it was like, okay, I can do this. As a nurse, I'm used to following protocols, I'm used to following step by step what I need to do. So this really hit home for me that this was something I could do because I also like to travel. I just came back from being in Canada for 3 weeks with my family, and I
Amen.
can work from there. So I needed something that was portable. So this fit the bill.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, bring it back to what you said about, how you had enough to retire, but it wasn't really like enough, right, to do the things that you wanted. Um,
Right.
that's always tough hearing, and especially so sad. I feel like just in the way like that system is set up, as far as like Social Security things go, because you work, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever the case may be. And it's like you give all your time and your energy. And then it's
Right.
like once you're actually ready to settle down and enjoy like the fruits of your labor, it's like you can't, right? So it's like
Right.
very limited. And then it's like, well, it's like if you do, it's almost like, well, then I have to find like, which I see a lot in most cases too. It's like people even have to get like a part-time job just to even get by
Hmm.
or enjoy those other little things that they were hoping they could have enjoyed from working all this time. So definitely. And thank you for your service as a nurse. I think you guys don't get enough thanks for all that you guys do. So
Well, thank
thank you
you.
for that. Yeah, and then also, what you said about being a single parent, that is tough as well. And you did it with three kids. My mom was a single mother as well, divorced too, and she raised me and my two other siblings. So I completely get it. And then, I obviously went through a divorce as well. And so, I have two children of my own. So being a single dad, I could definitely relate to the struggles of all that.
Hmm.
So, aside from, maybe having another income stream, was there anything else you were kind of craving at that point? Like, was it maybe stability or purpose, maybe even like impacting others?
Well, now I feel very strongly that I really want to empower other nurses to take control of their finances. And if they are approaching burnout, then they need to figure a way out. And this is a vehicle that can do that. And and that's really the audience that I'm going for, mainly because I know healthcare. I've done it my whole life, since I was 19. That's all I've ever done. And I recognize that a lot of the characteristics that cause burnout in nurses are very typical in a lot of other industries, but nobody wants to talk about it, right? At least in healthcare. It's not, it's frowned upon. You're not encouraged to speak up, you know, you're really encouraged to just suck it up. And, you know, nurses are not six-figure earners.
Mhm.
The every nurse that I have ever known, unless they married very well, have another job.
Mhm.
Always, always. I had three jobs. 15 years I worked 7 days a week,
Yeah.
not
Wow.
because I wanted to, because I had to.
Mhm. Definitely.
So it's sort of a passion project now, more than anything.
Right. Yeah, and it's crazy because I have friends and colleagues who were nurses or still nurses too.
Mhm.
Um and I love that you're kind of building like a community around those type of people. Because it is true. I mean, they work, long, long hours. I
Mhm.
mean, they get paid okay, but it's still not, exactly. In my opinion, it's not what they should be getting paid, right? I think they should be it should be one of like the highest paid professions, in my opinion. But yeah, I have friends too that, yeah, they'll, work Monday through Friday, and then maybe they'll like bartend on the weekends, right? Just to supplement,
Right.
especially even the ones that do have a family, which is, yeah, unfortunate to see. So, who would you say you're building this for, really?
I would say that I'm building it for other healthcare workers because nurses can be a broad term. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm an RN, but it's, you know, it's LPNs, it's nurse aides, it's, you know, um, like respiratory therapy and all of these, because
Mhm.
we're all in this together, right? But I was fortunate to have a small pension because I worked for a governmental entity. But
Mhm.
in private sector, there's no pensions, right? And if you don't put into your 401k, you got nothing, nothing. And I'm grateful that I don't even draw Social Security yet. I mean, I make enough, I'm making more money now in retirement than I did working.
Wow.
So why would I keep working, right?
Right.
Why would I keep working?
Absolutely.
And that I want to show them that this is a vehicle, but I also know that I have to use language that they understand.
Mhm. Definitely.
So yes, it's really, I want to give them an option because this whole, I could really get on a soapbox here. I mean, the whole healthcare system is so broken.
Mhm.
And somebody on a live a couple of weeks ago told me that registered nurse stood for refreshments and narcotics, and I'm like, I can get that. I can totally get it because people think they're coming to a 5-star resort, you know,
Right. Right.
and that's not what I'm there for.
Right. Right. That's fun. I've never heard that before, so that was good. I've never heard that before. Um,
Yeah, it's pretty good, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's unfortunate. The unfortunate thing too is like, yeah, I do agree the healthcare system is broken. There's a lot that needs to be fixed in there and improved, but yeah, out of our hands. So, what would you say is different about you now compared to when you had first joined the DG community?
I feel like I have more confidence in terms of getting in front of a camera.
Mhm.
You know, it's, I always say it's, I'm not very polished, but whatever, it's authentic, right? That's what Mike
Absolutely.
keeps saying. You got to be authentic. And what you see is what you get.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's sort of become more of a passion now because I wish when I was younger, I could have articulated my needs better.
Mhm.
I mean, my mouth has gotten me in a lot of trouble over the years because I've never been shy about speaking my mind,
Uh-huh.
but there's also ways to do it and not do it. And I wasn't always very good at saying it the right way. And I just want to empower nurses that if we don't start standing together and changing some of this culture, it's never going to change. And I get messages from nurses that are late 60s, early 70s, and they can't afford to retire. I mean, it makes me want to cry.
Oh yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
Oh yeah.
And so that's really why I'm doing this now. And I want to leave a legacy for my kids, and I want to prove to myself I can do it.
Definitely. No, I love that. I love that. So, I mean, we talk about like mindset and how important it is, just in life and in
Mhm.
business as well. Was there any type of shift, like when you had got started or when you were going through the whole program, that kind of made a big difference for you?
Well, I have always struggled with like self-worth, and there's a whole backstory to that too, but I'm not even going to go into that. And I still struggle with it some on a day-to-day basis. And so doing the work, the mindset work, really is important to me. And I mean, I need it. I have to do it. And so the days that I don't get up and do some prayer and meditation or some, I don't, I do listen to some mindset coaches and stuff, but
Mhm.
that's more like throughout the day when I'm riding my bike or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, but I do have to do that because I can tell you what, if I am hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, my mindset is going to suck,
Mhm.
majorly suck. And the big thing for me is I am a big supporter of 12-step programs. And so I've been going to a 12-step program for almost 18 years now,
Mhm.
to Al Anon, and that has literally saved my life. So the mindset tools that I have learned there, combined with the mindset tools that I've learned in the Mastermind, work very well together to keep me on the right track.
Yeah. No, that's great. I love to hear it. So now say everything is going right for you, right? You're staying consistent, you've built a community, you're helping people, the business is where you want it to be, you're making, the type of money that you want to make. What does your dream life look like 12 months from now?
I want to be living in Europe for 3 months out of the year. I want to be able to live in Canada more. Like my residence obviously is in the US, but
Mhm.
my goal is to be able to spend about 3 to 4 months a year there as well, because I also have a child in Canada in addition to all my extended family.
Mhm.
But I really want to get to the point that I can do some evergreen content, so to speak, and not have to work so much every day. I mean, I'm
Excellent.
working an average, some days more than that. It just depends on what's going on. But on average, I'm working a minimum of 2 hours a day.
Mhm.
But I would like to get it where I could do it like say 2 days a week, right? And then free up some entire days. But that's a long-term goal.
Okay, very good, very good. So what do you think it mean to you when you actually pull this off, not just to yourself, but also your family, maybe even your future?
Well, I think my core family, my kids, they'd probably be a little surprised. I mean, they know what I'm doing. I don't shy away from it, but I wouldn't say that they've been particularly supportive.
Right.
One child is, the other two are sort of like, oh, here she goes again, off on another crazy tangent. Um, my mother doesn't even have a clue or understand what I'm doing, but um, I know for me, it would definitely, like, I did it, and it's not that I am trying to like shove it in people's faces, but yeah, I got something to prove because my whole life I've been told that you're not going to amount to much of anything,
Mhm.
and so yeah, I've got a lot to prove, but mainly to myself.
No, I love that. I love that. And you're on the right path. And, as long as you stay consistent and plugged in,
Mhm.
there's no telling what can happen for you. So that's great. So, what's something or a couple things that you've learned about yourself since starting this whole journey?
Some days I don't want to do the work, but I have to do it anyways. I mean, that's where discipline kicks in. And I have not always been good with discipline. So it's forcing me to develop some new skills that I have probably resisted most of my life. And I do think some of that comes because I didn't have much downtime. I was always gone. By the time I get home, I'm so exhausted. Don't ask me to do anything else. It's not going to happen. So from that standpoint, I'm really having to work on building the discipline.
Mhm.
And I would say making sure that I take the time to do the work because it is important. And it doesn't mean that I can't pick it up, but if I don't put in the work, I can't expect the results either.
Definitely. Absolutely. So, what advice would you give to someone who is maybe was once in your shoes or still currently is, or maybe who's kind of on the fence or even just scared to start with something like this?
Well, the big thing I would say is nobody's coming to save you. I mean, that's the reality. Nobody is coming to save you. And if you are that fearful of investing in yourself, then you got bigger problems. I mean, that's just the reality of it. I had done I've done a lot of personal development over the years, and I had hired a mentor a couple of years, about a year and a half ago, and I saw the difference, and was it cheap? No. Did I really have the money? No. But I saw what the risk was worth the benefit, right? I knew that if I didn't do this, I was going to look back and regret it. And what it taught me, because this was a faith-based mentorship
Mhm.
for 6 months, and what I learned in that, I figured out a way to retire. I figured out that I needed to put myself first. I had developed a lot of health issues because I was working so much and not active and so on. And
Mhm.
so it taught me that I needed to put myself first. So I've got my health under control. I've lost a lot of weight, almost 100 pounds in the last
Nice.
year. I'm more active, I'm happier, and I retired.
Yeah.
That was the big thing. I retired 2 years early.
Heck yeah. Congrats on that. Congrats on that.
So for me, it was worth the investment. And that's the way I saw this too. I mean, yeah, it would be nice to have someone just hold my hand and say, well, Cindy, you need to do XYZ, but
Mhm.
that's not realistic.
Right.
I've got to put in the work.
Definitely.
So,
Yeah.
yes,
And no, I love that. That's a great answer. And so I think, right, it's tough for some people to hear it, but I think there's a lot of truth to it when, I think the biggest thing is you have to help yourself before you can help others, right? It's like
exactly.
it's like there has to be a certain level of extreme selfishness that you have to, right, when it comes to taking care of yourself, right? Because if you don't, and then you're like going out and putting all this other stuff and like trying to teach people, it's just not going to work, right? Eventually what happens is implosion. So,
Right.
and it just, right, it doesn't work out for you or others, and that's one thing you want. So that's one thing that I always like to recommend to people is just like take care of yourself first, right?
But nurses are not good at that. We're not taught how
Yeah.
to do that. We're
Yeah.
taught how to take care of everybody else.
Absolutely. Yeah, you guys are just like natural caregivers. So yeah, you guys are always putting, yeah, like you said, everyone else before you guys and everyone else's needs, right? So it's like and that's another thing. It's like you spend all day in a hospital doing that, and then it's like you go home and you still do it. And then it's like
Right.
by the end of the day, it's like, well, where's the time for me? Right?
Right.
Like, did I do
Right.
anything today to take care of myself or, so absolutely. So last question for you. What do you now know is possible since joining the DG community?
I know that anything's possible. The sky's the limit. And I had a very limited view of what this was all about, even just, legacy builder. But now that I'm inside the community, I mean, I've got lots of ideas. I haven't executed them yet, but it's made me think about, okay, well, I could now do, ABC. I could build out this community. I could, set up an automation for this. So it's like, it's really been mind blowing how much I've learned from it just in terms of what is possible. Because if you're not a person that can think outside the box, which typically nurses don't, I mean, we follow protocols, we follow orders. And so this was pretty new to me to start thinking about all the other things that are possible. So yeah, I got my vision board right there. I'm looking right at it. I mean, I've got my goals for the year and I know exactly what um, I'm shooting for. and the sky's the limit, because that's the other thing. I wanted something with uncapped earning potential.
Mhm.
I was sick and tired of being told what I'm worth. You're only going to make X amount of money. Nurses who have 10 years experience would make the same as me at 43, because that's just the way they do the salary scales. That
Right.
sucks. Like, I'm not paying, my knowledge of all these years doesn't count, because I can guarantee you I got a little more than they do.
Yeah, yeah. No,
So
that's
I'm done. I'm
yeah.
done being told. I'm done.
I love it. I love that answer, and I'm glad like you realize it because some people will go through their whole lives without realizing that, they could have done more or had more for themselves in their lives, right? And then it's like you're on your deathbed and it's like, well, you have nothing but regret left. And so
Yeah, and I
I'm
don't
happy,
want
yeah.
regret. I've had enough of that in my life. I don't want any more.
Definitely. No, but you're on the right track. Definitely, Cindy. And I think, like I said, you're gonna do great things. You're staying consistent, right? You're plugging
Yep.
into the system. So I'm excited to see where this leads you. But that's
Well,
all the
thank you.
questions I had for you, Cindy. You were great talking to. Like I said, thank you so much for hopping on this call with me. And I look forward to talking to you again once you've hit it big.
Okay, and will you be sending this to me or you'll post it?
Yes.